So welcome everybody and good afternoon. You're very welcome to another Webinar Wednesday from Sight and Sound Technology. For those people who may be new to these sessions, we host these on the first Wednesday of every month at 2 p.m. in the UK. My name is Stuart Lawler and I'm Head of Digital Content here at Sight and Sound Technology. I'm delighted to be welcoming you once again to a session that I think has certainly garnered a lot of interest from lots of people, because we're talking today all about mobility and AI and navigation and all those great things with a new piece of technology called NOA from the Swiss startup biped, just about to enter our portfolio and will be in the next couple of weeks. But we're delighted to have Maël from biped with us today, and we're also delighted to have friend of the show, Stuart Beveridge from Seascape is back. And Stuart, I think you were with us in December last, so we're delighted to have you back as somebody who's been using NOA for the last little while, and you'll be giving us your personal experiences, which I think is going to be really interesting to hear in a little while. Before I hand over to Maël, we'd love to hear from you today, and I'm sure there will be plenty of questions, so you can do that on the Zoom meeting platform. If you want to raise your virtual hand, you can press Alt and Y if you're on Windows, Option and Y if you're on a Mac, or if you're joining us using a mobile app, you can press the raise hand button on your app of choice, and you can also, if you're using the phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. If you'd like to chat to us, then you can do that on Windows with Alt and H, on the Mac with Option and H, or on your mobile app of choice. You can find the chat button, and I will be watching the chat, and we will keep all your questions and feed them back to Maël and Stuart after their presentation. We are very keen to get as much audience participation as possible. So if you can keep your question, especially if you're raising your hand, if you can keep your question as concise as you can, we will do our very best to get through as many people as we can in the next hour. So I'm absolutely delighted and very grateful for Maël and Stuart being with us. Maël, I'm going to hand over to you and welcome you again. And we'd love to hear all about NOA.
Thank you very much, Stuart. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very excited to be here today. I'll be sharing a quick presentation, but also describing everything happening on the slide deck to give all the key insights. So my name is Maël, one of the co-founders of a company called biped.ai. We are a Swiss company based off Lausanne on the French-speaking side. And we have been working on our core product called NOA for the past 3 years, roughly. NOA is a product that's active in the field of mobility. And as many of you might know and be familiar with, there have been lots of attempts at trying to solve mobility in the various aspects of mobility. So where to go with handheld GPS systems and apps afterwards. Are there obstacles on the way? So trying to augment the use of canes and dogs with electronic canes that provide haptic feedback for head level obstacles, for example, but also visual descriptions of what's around. And this is truly what AI allows as of today, with apps, with AI glasses and new types of wearables that are going to be invented over time. But in mobility, these three factors of where to go, are there obstacles on the way, and what's around are actually all relevant. So the idea came while talking to one of the innovation managers at the ophthalmic hospital in Lausanne. They just conducted a research project, and they were looking for ways to create camera-based mobility solutions, with the idea of what if a single device covered all of these areas in terms of mobility. So we conducted a massive research, involved over 450 users in 8 different product versions. And we basically designed or understood the key concerns. It has to be, whatever the outcome of that research is, it has to be easy to wear and hands-free, to leave the hands to hold the cane or interact with a smartphone. It potentially needs to be a complement to canes, dogs, for people who are visually impaired and sit in wheelchairs, or be used as a standalone navigation tool indoors, for example. It needs to have night vision with a wide angle, especially for people with blindness, being able to not only focus on 50 degrees of field of view, but capturing the whole scene is actually quite interesting. So a wider field of view. And it needs to limit the feedback overload as much as possible, because from all the research we conducted, we found that sensory overload is one of the big pains that these type of devices do create. And so gathering all of these insights, we basically started building NOA. So NOA is a mobility vest. So you can think of it as a small backpack that you put on the shoulders. On the left side of the chest, it has 3 cameras that have a wide field of view of 170 degrees. On the right side of the chest, it has a small computer with a button panel on the right-hand side. And NOA stands for Navigation, Obstacle, and AI. And so it's basically a summary of the 3 core features it has. So the device produces audio output that it streams to bone conduction headphones. So it leaves the ears completely free, and the person actually, while wearing the device, can enter a new destination or tap on a favorite destination. Here, turn right at 2 o'clock, for example. They can also hear beeps or clicks for incoming obstacles, head level to ground level. I'll dive into this in a second. And we also integrated AI features to be able to get visual descriptions of the things that matter on the way. For example, where to find a crosswalk, where to find the door, or how to find an empty chair while entering a building. It does look like basically the providing visual descriptions of those is always the hardest part. You can flatten completely the device, in which case it would have a U shape. But when you wear it on the shoulders, it has foldable straps on the left and on the right. You'd simply find 3 cameras that have 170 degrees of cumulated field of view with day and night vision on the left side of the chest. And on the outer right side of the module that's on the right side of your chest, it has 3 rows of buttons that allow you to control the navigation, obstacle, and AI individually. So it's rather light to wear. So if you're used to wearing a backpack, that's typically the device is about 1 kilogram, just shy of 1 kilogram, so a tiny bit more than 2 pounds. And it has about 3 hours of battery, and the batteries can be swapped. So the batteries go behind the neck, and then you can just take the battery out and slide in a new one. In terms of features, the idea is that the GPS navigation will provide you turn-by-turn indications. So turn right at 3 o'clock, for example. It can give clockwise instructions. It gives you turn confirmation. So once you took a turn and you're continuing straight, for example, or you're on the correct path, it would tell you continue straight. The GPS system we have basically also embeds crosswalks instructions. So it can tell you that at the next turn, you should cross the street on the left. And it also has its own compass. So it accounts for your shoulders orientation before giving the navigation instructions. In terms of obstacle detection, it's, as I said, one of the first camera-based obstacle detection systems. What that allows, because apart from the technicality, what's interesting with this is that it has a long range of perception. So we use 3D cameras that have day and night perception using infrared sensors also, where you can adapt the range anywhere from 1 meter to 5 meters. You can adapt the zones that you want to detect, head level only, so just collisions with low-hanging elements like low-hanging branches, that would be not caught by the cane, or focus on upper body or full body detection. But it also has holes and drop-off detection. And we run a comparative study between the bus clip, which was one of these, it's not on the market anymore, but which was one of these standard electronic canes, and NOA. And the research concluded that it generates 77% less cues or feedback for similar situations. So we're really trying to limit that sensory overload. I'm showing now a small video of what's happening in terms of reasoning inside of the device. So there is a local AI that will basically look at all of the images in 3D, reconstruct the surroundings in 3D, and try to understand what obstacle has a risk of collision with the user in real time, and decide to prioritize that information for the user to be able to filter only relevant obstacles in this case. And that research actually was a spin-off from one of the research projects we conducted with the Research Institute from Honda. They have a research institute in Germany, and we basically collaborated on a collision detection software that was taken or adapted from the self-driving industry at the pedestrian level. And on the last point, the AI companion part, the idea is that the device would be, with the buttons on the side, be able to find specific objects like crosswalks, doors, seats, or people, or provide overall descriptions of the surroundings using a central button that you can just double click, and in which case it focuses on describing everything that is relevant on the mobility standpoint, left to right. We've been working on a new feature that I'm also happy to announce today called Live AI. The idea is that as you walk, basically you have the AI agent that does not only require you to press on the buttons on the side, but that can just describe the most relevant information as you're walking. For example, approaching intersections or car parks on the left, etc., in a natural language manner. So yeah, so this is coming up also in one of our just one of our next updates in Q1. And finally, what we include in the box is basically a NOA device, 2 batteries. We have the headphones. We have a travel bag. We have a strap of Velcro that you can use to tighten your device in front, and the chargers, of course. So it's fairly simple to set up, and there's a full detailed user manual. But that being said, I think I did speak too much for now, so I'd like to slowly transition to handing over the word to Stuart Beveridge, who I just have to mention also launched a podcast called NOA Cast that you can find on all platforms. So it's NOACAST, like a podcast, but NOA Cast, where he's sharing a lot of details and insights on his current use of the technology and how he interacts with it. So it's also like, if you'd like to deep dive into this, that's a great way to continue doing so. And now, Stuart, I'd love to basically hand it over to you, and probably like starting with the first question on how you first heard about the product, because I do remember that it was quite a while ago and the product was not in its current form. So yeah, just curious how you came along the info.
Yes, so I suppose I can say, Niall, that I've kind of, it feels as though I've been with you not from day one, but when you previously, a couple of years ago, released the first version of this, which only had one button, and it was really only a, dare I say, it was a quite a smart obstacle detector with, I hope you don't mind me saying, just kind of very limited navigation capabilities, but I saw the potential in that device even then. And ever since, I've followed your progress relentlessly. As you know, I used to constantly bombard you with feedback and suggestions. And then maybe, I think it was maybe April last year, maybe, or June, I saw on your website, just went on it, just to see what was happening, and I saw that NOA was in development, and that's when the excitement really started, because the NOA device then had buttons that you could press rather than having to keep using the app on your phone. So much more hands-free, but the design, the cameras were still essentially the same. So of course I had to have it. So I ordered one, and I received my NOA in December last year. So it was Christmas come early.
Yeah, and I'm just curious also, because we do interact on WhatsApp. We try to have a closed loop with Stuart, where every time we have one of our releases or upcoming updates and we want to test something, we can actually ask Stuart for his feedback, and we do that with a couple of users across several types of environments, because the UK has a probably rural UK has a specific layout, but like central New York is completely different, etc., etc. So we try to gather all of these feedback. I'm curious, what was the like your first impression when you got the NOA device, and maybe like walk us through the unboxing, what that looks like, and how easy it is to pick up, or hard on the other hand, to pick up when you first get it.
So interestingly enough, because I had your previous biped kind of, product, as you know, Niall, then I kind of knew what I was getting myself into. But the unboxing was really interesting. I mean, I get because because of my job, I had actually researched this product inside out before NOAA even arrived. So I knew what I was kind of getting into. I'd read the fantastic user manual, which gave you a description of all the buttons and where they were located, etc. And I fed back on a few tweaks, which you made as well. So I was very prepared, as I am with any product I buy, when it comes in the box. I kind of knew what I was expecting, but there was a tiny surprise where when I was opening the lid, I was feeling around the lid, and this is something that I didn't foresee coming. And there was actually Braille on the box, which, after a few exclamations of delight, I was able to read the Braille. And it had something like enhanced engineering was one of the messages on the side in Braille, and then on the top of the box it actually had what I presume was visual for, maybe printed text as well, where it said NOAA, and it said that it stood for navigation, obstacles, and AI. And I just thought that's kind of going a bit like the extra mile in a way there. I was really impressed with that. And when I opened the box, I mean, everything was just so well packaged and so well laid out. So after feeling around, I mean, the NOAA device took up the center of the box. That was by far the biggest part. And then when I lifted it out, I thought, oh, yep, this is really, really lightweight. This is going to fit fine on my shoulders by the feel of things. And then another compartment all around the NOAA device, you had the other batteries, you had the charger, and you had the great idea. I had to ask you if you remember, Niall, what the little Velcro strap was for, but that was just a really nice extra touch to actually have that Velcro strap that you could attach round the control panel and the camera on the device, on the straps of the device. And it's almost like you're strapped in, then it's not going anywhere. And you could walk with confidence alongside either using either your white cane or your guide dog.
Yeah, no, it's great feedback, and I'm super happy that you also noticed the small extra gestures that have been put in, because we really try to iterate on the just that first unboxing and the user manual. I mean, as you remember, like you provided feedback on the digital versions that were hosted on the website, and then before it went out for print, we actually just could do most of these edits. Now that you're one of the active users of NOAA in the UK, I'm also really interested in what a typical day with the device looks like, and also the limitations, like which days actually you wouldn't use your device, and yeah, just the use cases that you see for that.
Yeah, I mean, the limitations, the big one, and it's not the big one, but it's so precious to me. I mean, I literally couldn't bear it if anything happened to this, my NOAA, because it goes where possible. It goes everywhere, whether it's in the travel bag, whether it's in its backpack, which I didn't mention was in the box as well. That's a fantastic little backpack where It has a zip pocket where I store my batteries and my headphones, as well as the NOA, which is in the main part of the bag. It's a big open neck bag that the NOA just fits in. A fantastic creation. Anyway, so the only time that I'm limited, because of the bad weather at the moment. I'm in Scotland, so anybody who knows Scotland knows that we are horrendously unlucky with the weather. And I think, and Niall can correct me if I'm wrong here, I mean, possibly I'd maybe use it in light rain, but I wouldn't use it in anything heavier than that. And to be honest with you, with any camera technology, if you're using a camera with in rain, that the water's going to run down the camera, and I just don't think it works as well in the rain, only because there's camera technology in there. But you'd get that, if cars didn't have windscreen wipers, then you'd have the same thing. A sighted person's view would be obscured just like the cameras are on this device by the rain. But other than that, and again, this is where I'm digressing slightly, but it's a key point. When I first got the device, and Niall will confirm again, I really wasn't getting on well with the GPS side. It was telling me to do things that, even on familiar routes, it was telling me to cross roads, and I'm going, oh no, this is not right at all. It wouldn't find my home address, etc. And in the latest update, all of this has now been fixed, and I have the 5 most important destinations that I use most frequently in order of importance in the NOA, and I can just press one button on it to take, and it'll guide me to, with the destination that I want. I don't even have to take the phone out of my pocket anymore. And it's that hands-free element. It's now that the better weather is coming in. It will take me to an important place I want to go. In terms of obstacles, it will alert me to where the obstacles are in my headphones. So if an obstacle was on my left, I would hear it in my left ear. If it was in the centre, I would hear it in both ears. If it was on the right, then you'd hear it on your right-hand side. And you could also use the AI to then work out, because of the 2 scene description modes, there's a short scene description, which I only use if I want to know maybe what items in front of me. Why has my guide dog stopped, for example? Then I would use the short scene description. But if I really needed a lot of detail, then I would use the more detailed scene description that you could use, as Miles said, with the center button. So, I mean, you could go on and on and on. And even with the detection features, so because of these door detection features, I can use, as a prime example, to use everything in tandem. I was walking the other day, and I had the navigation feature on to take me to my mum and dad's. I was hearing where different obstacles were, which my guide dog Dax we were able to negotiate them fine. But then when I get to my mum and dad's, it tells me I'm at the destination. But the one key thing that most other devices don't particularly have or do well is, once you get to the destination, how do you know where the door is? And that's where the AI comes in, because as soon as I knew I was near the destination, I was actually to specifically press a button on the right-hand side of NOA to indicate, okay, I need you to find any doors in the scene. And it took a quick picture, and it actually told me how far away the door was and what the number on the door was, and that the door was actually closed. So that level of information, specifically catered to the needs of a visually impaired person, I honestly do not think has ever been achieved. So you could use this indoors and outdoors. I've used this in the office to find empty chairs, for example, and work out how far away they are. I've used it for bus stops. I don't use public transport very often, but bus stops as well. It does all of that. So there's just so much in there, and more is going to be added over time. So hopefully that's just a few examples of why this could be potentially life-changing. And I think, just to finish, it's with my guide dog, I mean, this guide dog, I said about the last one that he was the best guide dog in the world. This guide dog I've got now is the best guide dog in the universe. But the problem, suppose, which is with anything, when Dax tries to take me down a different path than I'm not used to, why is he doing that? You can't communicate that to me. Why is he stopped? What's ahead of me that he is seeing that I'm not aware of? And that is where NOA comes in. It's not to replace a white cane or a guide dog, your primary mobility aid. It's designed to give you additional information to make your journey, to make you more independent, to help you travel more safely, etc. And I have never seen one device that does it all quite like NOA.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the detailed description. And I think you touched upon a lot of the questions also in the comments, and a lot of the thinking process behind NOA, and typically to complement the kind of work that we're doing, to complement guide dogs. There's something pretty cool that we've been working on with Guide Dogs UK, and that's been at the core also of our strategy in the UK, is to be able to address something that is either an addition to a white cane for people who are on a waiting list, for example, for a guide dog, or if they're guide dog beneficiaries. How do you augment a guide dog? And this is actually, guide dogs are brilliant, and it takes a lot of thoughts into how to actually augment that level of information. I think you also touched upon the navigation indoors, the idea of using the device indoors. So on that modularity of the software, there's a companion app that you will be able to use, that basically just allows you to say whether you want to have wide obstacle detection, normal, or narrow obstacle detection. Narrow is typically for indoors, and so in that case you can just focus on detecting obstacles that are on your direct path, just at shoulder level in terms of protection. So it doesn't keep any safety margin on the left and on the right in that case. And I think there was also just two questions that I saw on the use under the rain. So you're right, this is something where we recommend the use of the device up to light to medium rain in terms of IP certification that the device has done. Under heavy rain, people suggested also potentially to be using an umbrella. Really depends on how many things you have to carry with your in your hands. Overall, I know it can be quite overwhelming with if you have a cane, for example. Like you have a deep understanding also, Stuart, of where that technology can be heading, and as you know, we've also been openly sharing the things we're working on and integrating feedback. I'm also curious what excites you the most in terms of where this could be heading, and what features are you the most excited about, whether they're currently in the device or still yet to be developed.
I think the the feature that you're working on, as you said earlier, Niall, the live AI, that would be something really, really life-changing, because again, devices have tried it in the past with very little success, in all honesty, live scene descriptions in real time. So at the moment, the device is great, but I have to stop my guide dog to take full pictures of my surroundings, etc. I mean, imagine just walking down the street with, my guide dog, and just hearing, as you said earlier, okay, you're passing a car park on the right, there's a crossing ahead of you, etc. I mean, if this could work indoors, that would be unbelievable, the live AI. I mean, can I imagine, going into where I have real trouble, for example, going into a shop and knowing if there's a queue before I hit the counter. Is there anybody behind the counter? Where is the counter? That sort of thing. If this could all be done, although I know it's going to be very early stages, but if this could really end up being done well, the indoors where I've always had problems would be, if that could be addressed, that would be wonderful. And I think that's where it's heading. The other thing, I suppose, which I'm not sure if it's being worked on or not, but if we could have some sort of voice control element to it as well, so that, if I'm holding shopping in my right hand and I've got my guide dog on the left, then trying to access that control panel, with my right hand might be slightly tricky because that's full of bags. But again, could you imagine if you could just utilize the mic on your headphones and just ask it what NOA can see, or tell it to describe the scene or what's in front
Yeah.
of you, etc., without actually having to touch the buttons? That would be a step again that would, I don't think there would be any other device at the moment on the market that would have anything like that. So that's where I really see it going. Hopefully, well, I think the live thing is coming, and hopefully, possibly the voice control element as well.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, we're also actively working on voice control, so I think we definitely line up on the where these technologies are heading. So I think there are lots of questions that we can probably start to address. I don't know.
Yeah. Thank you, Mael, and thank you, Stuart. And Stuart, give a shout out to your podcast again, which is NOAcast. Is that right?
Yes, there are just about to be, there's 4 episodes up at the moment. It's going to be 5 very, very soon. And at the moment, it's all about setting the scene. It's quite a bit of work to pull everything together on it. But basically, just to give people an idea here, don't expect this to be an absolutely extensive resource. I'm not here to train people on NOA. I'm very clear on that. I don't want to be training people on it. I don't want to be, giving an absolute blow-by-blow account of how to connect it to the companion app, etc. What I'm doing is just going through my own personal user experiences and giving hopefully real life, but very, very effective and useful and personal to me, life-changing scenarios that I use NOA for on a daily basis. So I'm going to let it run for a year just to see how it goes. But what I've also done is I want people to go to Sight and Sound. I want people to go to My Elite Biped. In the podcast, I always direct people to My Elite Biped, the team at Biped. But if there are any questions, only from a user's perspective, no training stuff, but from a user's perspective, you can also send an email to me, and the address is noacastquestions@gmail.com. So if you listen to the podcast and you have any feedback or have any questions, email me and I'll answer them directly, and I'll also put a response onto the podcast just in case anyone else has the same burning questions.
Okay, thanks, Stuart. We'll definitely be tuning into NOAcast, and it's great that you're out there putting those things together, because I think it'll be very helpful for lots of people. Now, I just want to address before we start looking at chat, and as Mael said, there's some of these questions have been addressed already, so I'll try and hopefully pull out the ones that maybe weren't, or that we might want to talk a bit about a bit more. But just to say, there's some queries on pricing, and I see there's people from lots of different countries attending this session today. Somebody's asking about shipping and pricing in Canada, for example. And we have not yet launched this officially at Sight and Sound. So what I'm going to say for pricing today is stay tuned through our social media channels if you're in the UK or here in the Republic of Ireland, or I guess elsewhere, mile outside the UK, people can go through Biped, or you can help them locate a dealer in their country if one exists. Is that fair to say?
Yes, absolutely. There's the overall page in US dollars, and then otherwise it's country specific. So we do also have a page for the UK ready to go live with Sight and Sound.
Okay, brilliant. So I'm going to pull a few of these from chat, and then we'll go to raised hands as well. So Jean is asking, there are many types of optical solutions based on sensors, time of flight sensors, LiDAR. Are you exploring these for future inclusion in the product?
Yes, it's a great question, because technically we've been really trying to address that in the best way possible. Event cameras or event-based sensors in general are extremely promising. We had offers for 20,000 US dollars per device in terms of having these cameras be available. So they're just research stage as of today, except if we really order millions of them. Otherwise, the setup that we have, we are quite transparent with it, is I would say a robotics setup. So all of the humanoid robots or the Boston Dynamics robots that you see do use these cameras. They're stereo matching cameras with an infrared sensor in the middle, produced by Intel for the biggest part of them. And these cameras have a very long lifespan that has also been proven, because they have been actively used in the robotics industry for a couple of decades. So while we do keep our eyes on the evolutions of this market for future product versions, as of today, we picked what we think is the most robust approach when it comes to lifespan of these cameras.
Yeah, and
Okay,
I
thank you,
think
Mael. Yeah.
it's robust. And just to come on to it, Gina, what I maybe should have said when Niall was asking me the question about when I picked the device up out the box, the NOA device. I mean, the engineering here this is quality stuff. The whole design, when you feel around the device and you feel how well it's all screwed in and all fits together, it's a really unbelievably well made and well structured design. And I probably might say as well, I'm not affiliated to biped or any Sight and Sound, anything like that. I'm just telling you all of this because I thoroughly believe in this product. And in terms of the cameras, I think the solution's great. And what astounded me was that even at night, and I used this in the pitch dark, I mean the pitch dark, walking at night outside, and then I tested it in my house as well to actually see there's no way this is going to detect doors or empty seats, and it does. And again, I've never seen a device quite like it, so it must have something to do with that infrared sensor in the middle that Niall was speaking about there. So yeah, really,
Okay.
really good.
Brilliant, Stuart. Thanks for that. I'm going to actually, Stuart, this might be one that you might like to take. And a very interesting question from Jackie, who's saying, if you're walking along with somebody, so maybe it's a family member or you're taking someone's arm, does that have an impact on the information you receive from biped? Sorry,
Yes,
from
from
NOAA.
Noah. Yeah, so it probably would. I've never actually tested it alongside anyone else. It's always been with my guide dog. Now, again, I think if there was, say, the person was on my left-hand side or on my right-hand side, and I was holding on to their arm, depending on the obstacle detection range that was set, I think it might pick them up, especially if maybe the person was walking maybe a wee bit in front of me, possibly. Niall might be able to answer this question better. Niall, do you have any?
Yeah, it's actually we do have a user in the UK who has this exact thing, and so what we developed as an algorithm is something that would learn what obstacles are there constantly over time. So if you're walking alongside someone and that other person is just a few steps ahead, but on your left, for example, and you're grabbing them by the elbow, then in that case, that person would be played as an obstacle 1 or 2 times before the AI system learns that, okay, this person is actually there as support, and we don't need to actually play this as a constant obstacle. But it was added after user feedback, because that's not something we had initially designed.
Okay, Mael, maybe two kind of interesting questions just pulling out here from the chat. Julie is asking, would it work for someone like her with a small bit of vision? And interesting question from John, who's asking, will you be incorporating a wearable vest to allow vibrations and reduce audio overload?
Yeah, great questions. With if someone has a little bit of residual vision left, We do have a couple of users who are in this scenario, whether they have, for example, retinitis pigmentosa, and then they have moments where, because of light exposure or low light settings, they struggle in specific situations. That's completely possible. Or whenever actually I would say the qualifying factor for someone to feel like they could potentially need a NOA device is if ever there is something in the scope of what we just described in terms of mobility that is relevant. All of the features can be toggled on and off. So you can disable fully the obstacle detection if you think this is not something that's so useful, except if you want to just keep it at head level, 1 meter detection range, and then use the rest of the features. And now when it comes to the haptic, among the various product iterations we did, we tried haptic feedback. If it's directly on the shoulders, our findings suggested that as people wear jackets and then a backpack, if you put the vest, like the NOA vest on top, the main struggle is that they will not feel the haptic feedback anymore. So it needs to be generated by something else. We're working with a French startup called Envibe that builds haptic wristbands that look like a bit the wood bands or these health trackers that have these haptic capabilities. It's yet another equipment to pair, which we're not so fond of, but for people who might have hearing impairments also, that could actually be very useful to get the feeling for obstacle detection that is played directly from haptic feedback in wristbands.
Okay, thank you, Mael. Really interesting. And by the way, just to remind people, if you want to raise your hands, I saw one hand going up a minute ago and then it went back down again. So we will go to raised hands in a moment. Alt Y, Option Y, or activate your raise hand button if you're on a mobile app. Just a really interesting question that came in from Caroline, who's talking about using a wheelchair. It's obviously very challenging using a wheelchair, using a cane and trying to carry things. She hasn't been out and about since using a wheelchair because it's very challenging in navigating. And is there a way that maybe NOA could give information on lumps and bumps in on the pathways or pavements, I suppose, which may be challenging to the wheelchair? And sorry, Carol, I'm kind of paraphrasing your question, but I think I think I've conveyed the gist of it, or I hope I have.
So it's basically the short answer. This is technically feasible, but so far we apply a cutoff in terms of thinking about steps mostly. So bumps and cracks are, I know the one of the big struggle when using a wheelchair and a cane, because they can definitely alter the path that the person's going to take. The idea is that the cameras definitely have the precision to solve this. The algorithms so far can detect steps that are going one step up, one step down. And that's about where we limit it for sensory overload. We are quite interested in having something that could be played at another level, so much more fine-grained when it comes to wheelchairs. And designing this mode is actually in the books also. So looking at the ground, but a lot more precisely.
Okay, brilliant, Mael. What is sorry, in chat as well, what is the name of the companion app so that people can download it? And is there a subscription model for that?
So the app is called NOA Companion, so NOA Companion. And one nice starting point actually is we have a training program as part of the app that you can do. It's called the Academy, and you can just feel or hear what the type of feedback that the device would generate would be. It's a good starting point, and actually it's the one step that we apply in terms of training that just guarantees that the user has conducted the necessary training before starting or starting the device, so the device doesn't start otherwise. And it comes to subscription, yes, there will be also a subscription system available in the UK through Sight and Sound, but the app is completely free to use. So yeah, but the subscription is more just a payment facility as such, as installments, because otherwise there's a one-off plan. I don't have the price that was decided again, right?
So again, so stay tuned for more info on that.
Can I just
Okay.
jump in on the app just very, very briefly,
Yep.
Stuart? Again, just to say, so within this app as well, there's actually a lot more to that app as well, because you can customize settings for the NOA device through the app, such as the volume and the obstacle detection range. But there are also settings unique to you as a personal user as well. So you can basically tell it. So for example, I said I can tell it I have a guide dog, I'm a guide dog user, or I'm a white cane user, and it will obviously take that into account when it's analysing things. Mile might be able to help me out there on that one. But you can basically customize it to suit you. So you can put your height in there, which I think is going to be key to the camera setting. And I just think it's great that you have that level of customization. So you're actually programming it so that it's unique. You're giving it unique settings to you. You can even tell it whether you have, partial sight, no vision at all, etc. So there's a lot in there.
Okay, thanks, Stuart. Always great to get the feedback from your perspective as well, which is really important. I'm just going to go to a couple of raised hands, and just again reminding people, if you want to raise your hand and ask a question, you can do that. You can also stick a message in chat. Bear in mind we have about 13 minutes or so to go in the session, so if you can keep your question as brief as possible. So we're going to start with Andrew, Andrew Downey. Andrew, you should be able to unmute yourself. I think we have you, Andrew.
Thanks very much. It's coming up to 2 o'clock here where I am, 2 a.m. that is. It's an area that I've been really interested in and a bit frustrated about, the whole blind mobility thing. I mean, the whole idea that a long cane is the ultimate is a bit silly. I've used ultrasonic devices for the last 50 years or something. And I use currently the mini guide, which I've used for about 25 years, and I can walk quite quickly through crowds of people and never brush anyone most of the time, and with quite a lot of confidence. Will NOA allow me to do that sort of thing, or is it more for static information? Thanks very much.
It's definitely, it definitely works, Andrew. It definitely works in crowded areas. It will work in, quieter areas as well. And the key thing is, again, you can, with one button, you could actually program the obstacle. You can change the obstacle detection between 1 and 5 meters. So again, if I'm in maybe a crowded area, I might put the obstacle detection right down to maybe 1 meter, because if I've got it at any higher than that, and the speed I walk it with my guide dog, I totally understand where you're coming from. It's just going to go off all the time. It's going to go haywire. So in a way, at the moment, it's up to you to kind of analyze, I think, how busy your environment is. But again, it's so customizable. You can actually put it to any obstacle detection you like, whether you're in a busy environment or a quiet environment, and it works absolutely fine.
Okay, thanks, Stuart. I just want to reference a couple of things on chat. These are probably quick ones, at least. Jackie is asking, is the app accessible on both iOS and Android? I'm kind of assuming it is, but
Yes.
do you guys want? Yeah, okay. And Sandy is asking, how does it deal with hallucinations? I suppose, we all know AI hallucinates. Mael, I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll keep this one very brief, but I could speak about that for 2 hours straight. The very short answer to that is we have reference information in 3D, both day and night. So the biggest degree of hallucinations when it comes to describing images is ruining or fucking up distances. And that's actually, we can inpaint on the picture we send to the AI server. We can actually just inpaint that ground truth information. So it's really that combination of sensor level and image description. Well, I think Stuart can probably just comment on his current experience with the distance estimates and the hallucinations of the system.
Yeah, just very, very quick. I haven't experienced any, and trust me, I have with other devices, and it could be quite frightening. I haven't had that experience, any hallucinations yet with NOA.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Stuart. And Andrew Downey is making the point that you really have to invest the time to get the most out of this technology, which I think Stuart probably bears up exactly what you've been talking about too. Okay, we're going to go to another raised hand, and we're going to go to Sai. So Sai, I hope you should be able to unmute yourself. And I think we have you, Sai.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Okay, hi. I had a very quick question. So, just based on how much clarity there is with the camera, is it able to detect door numbers, um, boards, cafe menus, colors, nice things like that? Color of the sky, for example.
Yeah, I can take this one because there are technical limitations also on the cameras. So typically, door numbers or the menu on the on the outside of the cafe, for example, are all things that are definitely handled and also quite aligned with what Stuart described as his use case. The things that are very much fine grained in terms of, I think it's a bit too much to just say read text with it, like on a smaller menu. And it's probably most of the time for mobility purposes, the color description is not so relevant. So this is not something the device would do out of the box. This is something we might bring up, but just want to be transparent on the current way it is framed. It would not describe that there is like a light gray sky, for example, but it would just focus on describing what's around you in that scene.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think, again, it's basically what you have to always bear in mind here. This is a mobility aid, as Mel says. So, but it will definitely, to Sai's point, it will definitely detect door numbers and it will detect signs, etc. as well.
Okay, thanks, guys. Doreen is asking, I don't know, please can you comment on NOA as a WhatsApp contact? Is that possible, or I'm not sure I fully
Yes.
understand the question.
Yeah. It's so we have a small free service called NOA Chat, and NOA Chat is a WhatsApp number. It's a different product as such, but it's something that is completely free that people can basically just send a picture to. It's on our website at the bottom. There's something called NOA Chat. And you basically send it a picture and you get a description back. It's just the idea of making AI extremely accessible, and that can be shared with pretty much everyone. So you can take a video of your surroundings and ask, where's the exits, and have a message back within a few seconds. It's not as quick as the NOA device, but it's just you get a quick description of your surroundings, and it can answer questions that you ask in a video, for example.
Fantastic.
And can I just say, it works absolutely wonderfully with the Meta Ray-Bans, by the way. I'll just leave it at that.
Stuart, you're making us all jealous, Okay, let's go to Victor, who has his hand raised. Victor, you should be able to unmute yourself, and there you go, Victor.
Hey guys, how you doing? It's Victor. Yes, I do have the Ray-Ban glasses. So the question is, two questions. One, how much is the device, and is the device available? And does it do things like GPS, or is it better than the Stella, or what?
Yeah, good question. So the device is available. There's a GPS feature, so it's the navigation part that's built in, and you can basically get descriptions. I didn't dive like deep down into the technical things that make it a compelling product, but the idea is that the navigation instructions actually also use the camera input. So before telling you to turn left or turn right, the cameras actually check whether you can turn left or turn right at this moment. Or if you have arrived at your destination and we know you're heading to number 5, then if you trigger like a door finding feature that's based on AI, it will automatically look for the entrance of door number 5 and not just any door in the scene. So just this kind of like small tweaks that make the overall journey quite interesting and a bit less hassle in the way the technologies intercommunicate.
Okay, that is all our raised hands. I'm just having a quick look at chat. Somebody says colors would be useful for the future. I guess, Mael, I think you've already kind of explained that, and there are some restrictions on the technology, but I'm sure all these things may be possible in the future. I'm just going to go to the last two hands here. So we have we'll just go back to Andrew for our last question. Victor, I see your hand is up again, so if we get time, we'll come back to you, but we're tight on time at this stage. So Andrew, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Thanks very much. Quick question. Can it do obstacle detection if you're out of internet range? Thank you.
Yeah. So the internet access is only useful for features like live AI or AI descriptions. We are also building a offline model that works without any internet that will be released a bit later this year. But the whole experience of GPS and navigation, so GPS navigation and obstacle avoidance is completely independent from internet connectivity. So it works in the zones where you don't have any network whatsoever, and it works at 10 images per second locally inside of the device, with the data being fully kept inside of the device.
Okay, thanks a million, Mael. And Victor, you got the last question of the day, so you should be able to unmute yourself, and we'd love to hear your question.
The question is, what is your website and how much is it available? You said it's available now, so how much would it be available for now if I purchased it?
Yeah. So it depends on the country you're in.
I'm in the US.
You're in the US. Okay. So in the US, we have various resellers, and it's on biped.ai. So biped.ai. And the US website is the default one. So normally all the info is on there, and in the US specifically, there are multiple payment schemes, veteran affairs, etc., etc.
Okay, I'm just a quick look at chat here. Caroline is asking, any detecting stoplights? Is that that mean traffic lights? I think in this part of the world, I think.
Do you mean pedestrian crossings? Or no, stoplights?
Well, I think it would probably be the pedestrian traffic light that Caroline would be mentioning.
And I use this actually, and it's fantastic because what it does when you tell it with the AI button to find a pedestrian crossing, it actually, again, tells you how far away the pedestrian crossing is. But what's even better is it actually tries to tell you where the pole is located with the push button on it as well. And I find that extremely useful.
And the only thing it doesn't do is describe the color, the current color of the traffic light, just because by the time the sentence might be done telling you the light is green, this timing actually changes. This is something that might change with the live AI features, to be honest, but so far it felt like too much of a risk. And so we work in complementarity with the orientation and mobility skills of each and every individual who's using the device. And we definitely would not recommend someone step out of their comfort zone just to try out the technology. This is really like a gradual approach that we're taking. And I think it was highlighted. It takes a bit of time to get used to these technologies, and people need to be willing to also invest time in mobility skills for this. But a lot of super exciting stuff, I think, that are happening, and a lot of great ideas also mentioned by Stuart and in the questions. I'm really excited.
That's a great note on which to bring this to a close, guys. Mael and Stuart, thank you so much for your time. Mael, thank you for all that you're doing, innovating and really pushing the boundaries of this technology. And we're very excited here at Sight and Sound Technology for NOA to join our portfolio in a couple of weeks. Stuart, it's always a pleasure to have you. So thank you. Please come back. We'll bring you, hopefully get you back later in the year. So thanks a million, guys, and thanks to everybody for attending today. Keep an eye on Sight and Sound website and social media channels, and we'll have more news about NOA from Biped very, very shortly. That's all for today. We're back in April. So until then, from everyone at Sight and Sound, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you all then. Bye-bye.
Bye.